Hello everyone. In these times of terrible heartbreak following the devastating catastrophe in Tai Po, we're reminded of what an extraordinary community it is that we live in Hong Kong, and how in times of trial we stand together out of solidarity and compassion. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of everyone who has perished and is missing and has been injured and who's been in some way or another affected by this tragedy. We are also reminded of how important it is to try to live up to the ideals of our city and to be very much the embodiment of what makes Hong Kong such a wonderful place, and that is the sense of inclusion and belonging that we try so hard to nurture here. So I'm very honored and privileged to present to you today our latest Roundtable edition, which is focused on the subject of inclusion and belonging.
The expression that we often hear around campus at CIS, which is strength through diversity. What do you think this means?
Through diversity kind of means that our differences, whether it be cultural, linguistic, or personal, are what makes a community stronger rather than weaker. And I certainly agree with this. I think that this kind of only holds true when there's intentional inclusion. So not just having a lot of voices present, but rather these voices are actually listened to, respected, and I think that is precisely when you're able to get not just diversity as kind of a tagline or a slogan, but rather it's something that's actively integrated into how we view others, how we connect, and how we learn.
Another thing that I think we're particularly good at is this recognizing that there's cognitive diversity and people approach things in very different ways, and by doing that, by including young people, by including members of our community that have been here for a long time, parents, staff members, I think that we're really intentional about how we want to broaden our perspective and how we see that as accelerating solutions.
Well, we, like the school song, come from the East, we come from the West, and that's how we learn. That's the best, right?
We design our programs, we intentionally build that in. For instance, the learning community concept, we give students more opportunities to collaborate, to learn that there are differences among us, and with our PBL to enhance students' collaboration. So with all these different programming, we try to nurture our students to learn the differences and embrace the differences so that they become global citizens.
I say what a privilege it is to work with a school that has this commitment, because you're, as a community, seeing diversity as something that isn't a problem to be overcome, but something that is actually an asset, and you see the strength in that, and so that how it adds value to your community.
Let's start with the primary. Can you just explain a little bit how SAID works?
SAID stands for Student Alliance for Inclusion and Diversity, and it's a place where students can connect with each other to learn about diversity. And we get together every Wednesday at lunch recess to discuss many different topics. Recently we had a human library where we got to ask different teachers from CIS about their background and culture.
Having student groups like this, offers a space to nurture kids to have a sense of belonging and acceptance. Some of them have a really good understanding of the differences in, cultures, neurodiversities, all that kind of stuff. Many of them come not knowing at all. So it's a great space for them to be able to discuss all of those topics. And ultimately, we also really want to guide them to be upstanders for one another and within the community. I think sometimes kids don't understand, where different cultures may come from or the different holidays that are celebrated. Kids who are dealing with different neurodiversity, so helping them to understand that really leads them to be upstanders for others in their community.
What's happening from the student perspective in the secondary school in this area of inclusion and belonging?
I think there have been a lot of different student-led initiatives that are trying to kind of foster belonging and more of a sense of inclusion in our community. So for example, I remember like last year with the SDG Council, we did International Women's Month event. So we collaborated amongst like all the service groups, service leaders and volunteers in order to kind of try and host events during International Women's Month that would kind of educate but also inspire kind of discussion and discourse in terms of women's rights, women's history, and I think overall it was like really kind of inspiring to see different kinds of groups come together using their strengths. So for example, CIS Debate Society, we had a students versus teachers debate on feminism, and Girl Talk, they had a period cramp simulator. So I think it's like through these events you get, first of all, you get bonding as kind of a whole secondary from year 7 to 13, and at the same time you also get this kind of discourse and education amongst the students as well.
It'd be a good time to talk about our definition of global citizenship and intercultural understanding. Can you tell us a little bit more about that effort we undertook and what the definition actually says?
The process of defining the definition was a very inclusive one. So that itself represents how we do things here at CIS. And the definition itself help us to establish a shared understanding and commitment for the CIS community with regard to global citizenship. And it positions global citizenship not just as an abstract understanding of the world's interdependence, but as a mandate for action, and so that we can champion the dignity and the respect for people of all backgrounds, and regardless of identity dimensions such as race, age, gender, socioeconomic status, religion, etc., and to accept cultural and other forms of diversity, and to embrace plurilingualism as a key to intercultural understanding. The definition and the defined 6 principles help us to adopt a whole school approach with common language and a shared understanding, so that we work together as an entire community to set concrete goals that help build a more peaceful, just, and sustainable world.
That definition, we refer to it a lot, but hopefully we're also trying to bring it alive in the program of the school, right? Maybe we could just start off really quickly with the curriculum to get a better sense of how in the primary and the secondary we're kind of attempting to like give some real significance to that definition.
Primary, we definitely focus on inclusion in a lot of ways, one of them being curriculum design. And I think I can give you some examples specifically within Year 5 that definitely touch on those 6 principles that we have included in our policy. For example, in Year 5 we do an integrated studies unit on the Silk Road, and it touches on a lot of different cultures and how they all came together to influence this huge event, the Silk Road. Another unit that we do is in our English unit. We've worked very closely with Ms. Uttam to do a service learning unit. It's a bit of a housing unit.
Yeah.
It's more like it's an opinion writing piece, but we really wanted to include, that link between organizations in Hong Kong, raising awareness around socio-economic issues. So we actually partnered with SOCO, the housing society, and it really teaches kids a lot about subdivided living in Hong Kong. So even just in those 2 units, we've touched on different things, cultures and backgrounds, and even socio-economic backgrounds. So yeah, we continue to include, enhance, broaden our curriculum so that it really does have a little snapshot of everything. And I think that's throughout all the year groups.
I think across all the year levels in every subject area, right, there's an effort to integrate all of these things into the curriculum across different units. My work this year is mostly focused with Year 9. I do push and support into classes. I have a very lucky, kind of unique role in the school in that I get to go into pretty much every subject, and I see these patterns across subjects, right? And with that, I also go into the PBL offering that we give in year 9, right? And it's fascinating to see the way in which when students are empowered to have voice and choice and to pursue interests and collaborate, the way in which they develop the accommodations or the approaches that they differentiate in a way for themselves and that feels right for them and they're empowered to do it versus this external body is coming in and making this thing different for me. They are like, no, I'm going to do this for myself. And so that's really a wonderful thing to see play out. Also in my role, I work very closely, almost as a connector between stakeholders with parents, external professionals, whether that be clinicians, psychological services, whatever it may be, with parents and then them and then the school and teachers and student. And so that is another commitment that we have to inclusion in our secondary and primary school of making sure that if action needs to be taken to remove barriers for access to learning, because every child wants to learn and desires to learn and can learn, like that's an amazing feeling when day after day you get to help take away or somehow mitigate barriers that are holding someone back from showing their full possibilities of what they can bring to our community.
Is how you've written a book that's entitled Towards an Inclusive School. How do you make people feel included?
It's a complex process, I think, and I think the book is in 3 sections, and the first step is really to look at ourselves. So the more we know about ourselves, the more we understand the lenses we have in which we view the world. Because if we want to bridge across differences, we have to identify, what are the points in which I'm trying to bridge. And so if I understand my own point and my own viewpoints, then I'm better able to bridge. And so really the work begins with ourselves, for one. And then the middle section of the book talks about becoming inclusive and us. So we're also thinking about, well, how are we with each other? Right? So how do I approach and help keep people safe? And so what are the cultural norms that exist? And how do we hold ourselves accountable for that? And how do we have shared expectations around that? So safeguarding work is really important, as well as, do we have a shared concept of well-being? Do we understand that? Do we have leadership and community practices that are going to foster inclusion, voice, and trying to uplift everybody, and that commitment also? And so that's another aspect, which kind of leads me to the third aspect, which is around, do we have the systems and structures? So those are the institutional pieces that are going to help, because policies, although that might be the very kind of not very attractive and desirable work of a school, but it's still really important because it brings clarity to our shared expectations. And so with that clarity, then we can have accountability. And so with that accountability, then we're going to hold ourselves to account, each other to account, and then we can build that inclusive community that we want to have together.
Not easy. It does take time. And I think baby steps, and speaking to the first part of your book, where you mention how we need to reflect on ourselves, I think our school does a very good job at also trying to make the kids aware of that. We've got a great visible well-being curriculum in place as well. And one of the units that we do, Emilie, you might remember this, is we take a look at our strengths. And the kids actually do a questionnaire, and they really dive deep to figure out, well, what are my strengths? They need to have a good understanding of what they are strong at to be able to go out there in the world and, be upstanders and advocate for others, to have that sense of belonging and community.
In the secondary, that comes through quite heavily in our advisory curriculum. So students, I've had the privilege of staying with my advisory from year 7 and hopefully on all the way till the point that they graduate, and we explore their strengths. And then through that, they do goal setting around that. Also in year 9, they have the community project, right? So looking at giving back beyond the school walls. And I think that I see that manifest in the older students, that they build that confidence in year 9, and then they go on to do so many amazing things, so many student-led organizations in the upper secondary that really impressed me compared to other schools that I've been at, just how proactive our students here are, and how they're like, no, it's okay, you can sit back, we got this. And you're like, what? I'm so used to, as the adult in the room, having to really step in quite often, but they're like, no. Because really, and they really can be trusted to execute some amazing things.
Is that what you were also talking about? us, including the parent community and our families, right? Both in the home environment. Also, you also mentioned CISPTA, which is our organized parent body that supports the school in the day-to-day life of CIS, right? Ms. Lee, would you be able to say a little bit more about like how important is this subject from a parental perspective, would you say?
It's huge because we are also, aside from school, we are also the backbone of the kids.
Yes.
We nurture them and we give them we support them mentally, physically, and it takes a whole community, it takes a whole village to, help the kids understand all this. And community is huge. And we try to, CISPTA itself try to create as many opportunities for the parents to come together as well. And, hence the fair, we have many more.
Yes.
Many more activities.
Fair is a great example.
Huge.
Would building out the diversity of our community be important to the fair?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have all different kinds of games, we have all different kinds of food, and it displays our diversity, and we bring everybody together.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the role that service learning plays in helping us advance our commitment to intercultural understanding?
Service learning, it's kind of the laboratory for intercultural understanding. We talked a little bit about how we want to create this sense of student belonging within our campus, and then hopefully arm them so when they go out into Hong Kong, Greater Bay Area and beyond project week trips, as Lily mentioned, that they're taking that sense of what they've learned about the importance of recognizing people's uniqueness, recognizing people's value, and taking that to different areas, right? And so we see that every week. We have over 300 students that are volunteering in 30 plus NGOs, community organizations around Hong Kong. And in these situations, they are practicing the language that they're using when they're speaking to different communities. They're thinking about, they're developing their cultural humility, right? Because they're in spaces that I think normally don't regularly occur in their life outside of this opportunity. And it also leads to a lot of shared problem solving.
Thinking ahead, what would be your dreams for CIS in this area of belonging and inclusion over the next several years?
To continue to expand the diversity of our student and staff body.
Take action such that every student can show up every day and feel like I belong and I can do my best and I'll be recognized for doing my best, even though that may be different and I may need different supports to demonstrate that.
My dream would be that students feel confident that they have the power to make every space they occupy better, and that their 13 years at CIS leads to a certain goodness. We use that word of being an upstander, right? And to use their power for good and to use their power just to make the people around them feel more included.
Looking ahead, something that I would really love to see is kind of people kind of embracing the fact that we have different dreams, different kind of, not just views, but rather like how we want our lives to turn out. I think like there's obviously this very like standard definition of what it means to be successful at school, what it means to be successful in the workplace. And I think like what would be really beautiful is if we were able to accept the fact that like different people probably will excel in different ways, and that success looks very, very different for different people, because again, everyone has unique qualities. And
I hope that through the training and intentionality that the whole community, including parents, teachers, and students, we can help students to define what's their unique success mean and find themselves, and so that eventually in our community every single member feels that they're heard, they're seen, and they're recognized as a unique individual.
Many, many thanks, dear panelists, for your extraordinary contributions to today's conversation. We're deeply grateful to you for the inspiration that you've given us, the insights you've provided, the direction in which you've pointed us as a community as we look forward to our 50th anniversary in 2033. But each and every day, trying to make a difference, to move us closer and closer to the highest aspirations we have as a community. All the very best. Please take care, everyone.